Welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at, well, less of a what and more of a who, Nikolai Ostrovsky. And to do that, we'll be diving into excerpts of the biographical novel, the one all about him, How the Steel Was Tempered.
Right, right. Should be a good one getting into the life of this. Well, he was a pretty major Soviet literary figure, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah. And the way this book goes about telling his story, well, it gives us a very, how should I put it, a very intimate look, not only at Ostrovsky himself, but also at the time period he lived in, a time of immense change and upheaval. And what's really interesting? The book describes Ostrovsky's funeral, and get this, it was this massive, 3-day event. People from all walks of life, just a constant stream, all coming to pay their respects.
Wow, 3 days. That's something else. I mean, to have that kind of impact, it really makes you wonder what was so captivating about him. Not just back then, but even generations later, people are still drawn to him and his work.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And I think a big part of it was his dedication, his unwavering commitment to his craft. Yeah. There's this one passage, actually, where he talks about those early days, when he was first starting out as a writer. The struggles, the isolation.
I bet it's not an easy field to break into.
No, not at all. But then he talks about finding his people, his literary friends, and the sense of relief and joy that came with that. You can just feel his passion for writing, his yearning for connection, for growth.
It's funny how those early struggles, those moments of doubt and uncertainty, they often become the breeding ground for our greatest strengths, wouldn't you say?
100%. And it's in those early struggles that we see the seeds of Ostrovsky's most celebrated themes. Resilience, overcoming adversity, the strength of the human spirit. These weren't just abstract concepts to him. They were born from his own life, his own experiences.
Right, and it's almost as if he had this, this premonition or something, because he always seemed to be working against the clock, pushing himself to the limit.
Oh, absolutely. There's actually a line where he writes, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something like, hurry, I must hurry to live. It's like he knew on some level that time was precious, that he had to make every moment count.
And that urgency, that sheer determination, it becomes even more incredible when you consider the context of his writing. Think about it. Here's Ostrovsky battling this progressively debilitating illness, and what is he doing? He's pouring every ounce of his being into his writing, into this creative offensive, as he called it.
It's unbelievable when you really stop and think about it. I mean, we're not talking about some writer on a relaxing retreat, leisurely crafting their masterpiece. No, this was a man bedridden in Sochi for much longer than he thought he would be, I'd imagine. And yet his spirit, his will to create, it never wavered.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the writing either. He was deeply involved in, everything, really. He was a dedicated Bolshevik, you see. And he truly believed in the power of collective action, in making a difference in the world around him. He wasn't just going to sit back and let life pass him by, even with his illness.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit, because I think it's important to understand what that meant for Ostrovsky to be a Bolshevik. What did that look like in his day-to-day life?
Well, you see, for Ostrovsky, being a Bolshevik, it wasn't just some, political label he wore. It was a way of life, a fundamental part of who he was. Imagine, if you will, a society on the brink of change, yearning for equality, for something different. That's what Bolshevism offered, at least in theory, a world where the workers controlled the means of production, a complete upheaval of the old hierarchies, a chance for a fresh start. And this message, this vision of a more just world, it resonated deeply with Ostrovsky. I mean, here was someone who knew hardship, who had experienced injustice firsthand.
So it wasn't just about subscribing to an ideology. It was about aligning his actions with those beliefs, putting them into practice.
Exactly. And this is where his life starts to read like a novel itself. He wasn't content with simply writing about change. He wanted to be a part of it, to actively contribute to making that change a reality. So what did he do? He throws himself into community work, organizing meetings, working with young people, promoting cultural initiatives, the whole 9 yards. And keep in mind, he's doing all of this while grappling with this increasingly debilitating illness.
It's remarkable, really, the sheer strength of his commitment. He could have easily retreated inwards, focused solely on his own struggles. But instead, he chose to keep fighting, to keep striving for a better future, both for himself and for others.
And that's where his most famous work, How the Steel Was Tempered, comes in. Now, Ostrovsky himself never actually appears as a character in the novel, but the story of the protagonist, Pavel Korchagin, well, it often unfolds like a parallel narrative, mirroring the social and political currents of Ostrovsky's own life. It's as if he's using fiction to grapple with the complexities of that time period, to explore those universal themes of struggle, resilience, and the human cost of revolution.
It's almost like looking at two sides of the same coin, right? You have Ostrovsky's real-life experiences, his personal journey, and then you have Pavel's fictional journey, which in many ways echoes and amplifies those same themes.
Exactly, and it starts right from the beginning. Take Pavel's childhood, for instance. Here's a young boy forced to work in a grueling restaurant kitchen, exposed to the harsh realities of social inequality from a very early age. It's a stark reminder of the kind of world Ostrovsky himself grew up in, a world where poverty and injustice were rampant. It's no wonder that both Ostrovsky and Pavel felt this burning desire for change, for a more equitable society.
And it wasn't just about the economic hardship either, right? There's also this sense of political awakening that both of them experienced, this gradual exposure to different ideologies that mirrored the tumultuous political landscape of the time.
Absolutely. It was a time of great upheaval, of questioning and challenging the existing order. And we see both Pavel and Ostrovsky grappling with these new ideas, trying to make sense of the world around them and find their place within it. The Bolshevik movement, with its promise of a more just and equitable society, it held a powerful allure for both of them, offering a sense of purpose, of belonging, of fighting for something larger than themselves.
And as Pavel gets more involved in the movement, he forms these incredibly strong bonds with those who share his ideals, like his friendship with Sergei Brusak, for example. It really highlights the power of camaraderie, that sense of solidarity that often emerges when people are united by a common goal, a shared struggle.
It's that feeling of not being alone, of knowing that others are fighting alongside you, that often makes all the difference, wouldn't you say? Especially in the face of adversity when the going gets tough. And let's be honest, the path to revolution is rarely smooth sailing, is it?
Not at all. Just as Pavel experiences moments of triumph and camaraderie, he's also confronted with the harsh realities of conflict, the betrayals, the setbacks, the constant threat of danger. It's a stark reminder that revolution isn't a game. It's a messy, complex, and often dangerous undertaking.
And those dangers, those risks, they weren't just abstract concepts for Pavel, were they? Think about the incident where he steals the Mannlicher pistol, a bold act of defiance, fueled by his revolutionary spirit, but also a reckless one with potentially dire consequences.
It's like that old saying, one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist.